Committee, we have a quorum. It's 3:30. We should get started. We do not have a lot of work. I'd like to welcome you all here. Welcome those on WebEx. Chairman Smith had to go home to western Kansas because of the massive snowstorm out there, take care of livestock. So we'll be doing the best we can here. The first thing I would ask for is any requests for bill introductions. Are there any from the committee?
I have one.
Yes, Representative Turner.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's 22, you want the RS number? 22 RS 2795. And that is a, excuse me. So currently when you purchase a car and trade in your old car, you pay sales tax on the difference between the value of the new and the trade-in. This bill is going to allow that same tax treatment if you choose not to trade it in and sell it outright. So, thank you.
Any questions? Seeing none. Seeing any objections to introduction? Seeing none, the bill will be introduced. From any others from the committee? I would like to recognize Representative Esau.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I have a bill introduction 22 RS 2707. And I'm introducing it on behalf of a constituent, Mr. John Lee, who might be familiar to some of you.
Do you have a brief explanation of the purpose?
It has to do with income taxation and rates and would change the formulas. And it's a short bill, but I will not say it's a simple bill.
All right, are there questions from the committee? Any objections to an introduction? Seeing none, we'll consider it introduced.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Any other requests for bill introductions from the gallery? Seeing none, we'll move on. Today we have a hearing for House Bill 2494. And to give us a brief overview, I would call on Adam Sieber, our reviser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 2494 would provide a sales tax exemption for DCCCA, Inc. For the following items. It would be for the three items: the purchases of tangible property and services by the company, sales made by the company, and sales of tangible property and services purchased by a contractor for the purpose of rehabilitating, constructing, maintaining, repairing, enlarging, furnishing, or remodeling facilities for this company. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you, sir. Questions, committee, for the reviser? Representative Highland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you tell me what DCCCA stands for?
You know, I don't have it on tip of my tongue. I'll probably let the proponents, I'm sure they'll be testifying, explain their organization.
Okay, I also did a little research, and if I'm correct, or if this form is correct when I went out, theirs expired in December last year. Their exemption, no?
I don't believe
so this
that.
Expiration date is wrong, then it's listed in the Attorney General's. We'll get there probably.
We'll get to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Representative Sanders.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair, that was my question as well. What does DCCCA stand for?
From what I remember from my research, it's Douglas County something, but we can have the conferee clear that up. Okay. Any other questions for the reviser? Anything online? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Adam. Oh, Representative Turner, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just looking at, not specific to what we're amending onto this, but this is a 38 pages, and as I understand it, it looks like the first 16 are kind of categorical. I'm just trying to understand that the first 16 pages are categorical exemptions, and then it gets into like specific named entities. Is that fair? And so now we're adding on to the end of that list?
Mr. Chair, yeah, you've essentially, yes. The statute is an old statute. It's been around for a long time, and I would agree that in the beginning, it was more of a categorical-based exemption. As things have progressed, years ago, it went to start naming entities for specific exemptions. And that's kind of how things progressed in probably the last 15, 20, 30 years. That is correct. The Kansas Constitution requires that we print the entire statute, even when we make one change.
Committee, other questions for our revisor? Seeing none. Thank you, Adam. Do we have, yes, we do. Kathleen Smith, could we get you to review the fiscal note, please?
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, Kathleen Smith with the Department of Revenue. Department of Revenue is estimating that House Bill 2494 would decrease state revenues by approximately $497,800 in fiscal year 2023. That would include $417,300 to the state general fund and $80,500 for the state highway fund. And we derived our estimates by data that was actually provided by the organization. With that, Mr. Chairman, I would stand for questions.
Thank you, Kathleen. Committee, do we have any questions for Department of Revenue? Is there anything on WebEx? Nothing. Thank you, Kathleen. Well, with that, we'll open up our hearing on House Bill 2494. And we have one listed proponent, and that is Lori Alvarado. Welcome to committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I am Lori Alvarado. I am the CEO of DECA Incorporated, and I will start by answering the question, what do those letters stand for? Nearly 50 years ago when we were founded, it stood for Douglas County Citizens Committee on Alcoholism. Within about 2 years, we became a statewide organization and did a lot of work in behavioral health, child welfare, substance abuse, traffic safety, and our board of directors in the mid-'80s decided we had been known as DECA for years, so our official name is the 5 Letters Incorporated, and they currently don't stand for words. Does that help clarify a little bit? All right, we'll get started today. I just want to thank you for your time and for considering this bill, House Bill 2494. DECA has served Kansas communities, families, and children for nearly 50 years as a behavioral health provider of mental health, substance abuse disorder treatment services. We serve any Kansan, including the uninsured and the underinsured. DECA provides family preservation services, retains, trains, and recruits foster homes across the state, and works with hundreds of community coalitions to develop plans to address substance abuse, mental health promotion, as well as providing traffic safety education across the entire state. DECA maintains offices across the state of Kansas in Pittsburgh, Mission, Lawrence, Topeka, Wichita, Pratt, Hayes, and Winfield. We employ nearly 250 employees across the state, and our mission is to provide social and community services that improve the safety, health, and wellness of those that we do serve. In particular, we are one of 3 designated substance use treatment designated women's providers in Kansas. What that means is our work with pregnant women and parenting women who have behavioral health needs is one of the significant contributions we make to the state. We provide treatment and housing to pregnant women in a residential setting. After the mothers deliver their babies, they remain in our treatment program. On-site child care services are provided while these postpartum mothers continue to receive treatment and make the transition back into the community. Our services, our investment in human capital, and our infrastructure are all required and, you might guess, expensive. The value of our work is evident in the women that we help succeed in treatment and the families that we divert from foster care. Our services enable mothers and families to thrive. We enable mothers to deliver their babies healthy, hopefully substance-free when they're in our services, and begin lifelong bonds with their children, avoiding trauma and stress and separation for both mom and baby if a child is taken into custody. Because of our programs, mothers and families are given a vastly improved chance for success. One additional value to the state of Kansas is that these babies delivered to mothers with substance use disorder issues are not going into the custody of the state in the child welfare system. The annual cost for one child in the child welfare system is about $90,000 per year, which is significantly lower than the $15,000 to $18,000 a year it takes, or $15,000 to $18,000 per episode that it takes for a comprehensive treatment of substance use. The capital construction sales tax exemption in House Bill 2494 will help us construct an expanded clinic facility as well as transitional housing for clients as they transition into the community. DECA is requesting the sales tax exemption to assist in furthering our mission. With decades in between the rate increases that we've received for services, funding for substance abuse disorder services has lagged significantly behind funding for other mental health services because the mental health system already benefits from a sales tax exemption under the state. Nor has funding kept pace with the higher costs incurred with treating higher acuity levels of individuals and families. There is a growing gap between the cost of providing services and the current reimbursement rates that we receive for those services. Additionally, COVID-related costs have impacted us significantly over the last 2 years as an operator of 3 residential programs, 2 for women and 1 for men. Unlike nursing facilities, hospitals, and other congregate living space, residential substance use disorder facilities did not receive direct COVID relief funds over the last 2 years. We carried and sustained the costs of residential programs without the direct federal aid and received only a small portion of aid through the Kansas Department of Aging and Disability Services. Finally, regarding capital, we continue to invest in the communities we serve, and the sales tax exemption in this bill allows us to maintain safety and regulatory requirements as we enhance our communities and assist our clients in their recovery. In the fiscal note provided to the Department of Revenue, you heard the details of that, but DECA referenced the ability to save $255,688 on an ongoing annual basis. The figure that you heard also includes some construction that 1,291 days of substance use treatment in one of our residential facilities, or extend a 4 to 6 month in-home family preservation type of service to an additional 44 families each year. We support those families who have substance use disorders as part of our family preservation treatment and allow families and children to stay safely in their home. As a registered 501c3, savings realized from one-time building projects would allow DECA to update and expand necessary facilities at a lower initial cost, allowing those funds to be redeployed into service delivery. We considered seeking this exemption before COVID, and the experiences of the last 2 years have affirmed our need to maximize the resources we possess, seek and use all the tools we can, and continue our mission to serve pregnant women, foster families, and other citizens that must address substance use disorders. So in conclusion, we believe our work and mission and commitment equals those whom the legislature has awarded with a sales tax exemption in the past. We appreciate your support and advancement of House Bill 2492, and I would be happy to stand for questions from the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee questions. Let's start with Representative Highland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Lori, thank you for coming. You're doing great work. Don't get me wrong here.
Sure.
But I went out and did this research, and I found on the Attorney General's site the listing of all the charities, 68 pages worth, and they say your expiration date was December 31st, 2021. So Can you explain that to me?
Was that in reference to the Orm Street in Wichita?
All they list is the name and the address on Clinton Parkway.
I'm going to defer to you. This is Carrie Jackson. She's our Chief Financial Officer, so I'm going to ask her to
Okay, thank you.
respond to that
That's our
question.
charitable solicitation. That requires a copy of our 990 be submitted with that document. That wasn't ready to be submitted until January 4th or 5th, I believe. So it was submitted then. There is no, like you can get an exemption, you can get an extension for your taxes. You cannot get an extension for a charitable solicitation. So it should be there now. It's been there for probably 3 weeks.
So it just hasn't been updated, is what you're
That's
telling
my
me?
understanding, yes.
Okay.
I've not gotten back the certificate yet that says here is the license for the year to year, but they only issue it 1 year per year at a time.
What does the 20 million stand for then?
I'm
That's
sorry.
on this,
That would be our annual budget.
Yeah.
20 million is our annual budget.
where does all the money come from?
We do a lot of programming.
So we have funding from Department of Children and Families. We have funding from KDAD's Department of Disability Services. We have funding from Kansas Department of Transportation, Kansas Department of Health and Environment. We have funding that we do fee for service for our services that we deliver. So insurance also is part of our payment process. So that's a variety of funding sources, and that's our average annual budget.
Okay, and federal grants then do you receive?
We do have some federal money,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Ms. Alvarado, would you mind restating the name of your associate so we can get that in the record?
I'm sorry.
The associate who is,
Oh, Carrie, Kerye Jackson, and she's the Chief Financial Officer at DECA.
thank you very much. Next question would come from Representative Clayton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your testimony. My question is, as I look at this and as I look at what you do, I like the idea of charities helping individuals because I think that in the long run, it ends up saving money to the state because when you take care of things, that means we don't have to. So I'm kind of curious to hear a little bit more about how do you think, even from a cost standpoint, how much money do you suppose what your organization does, in particular for these new moms, that actually might end up giving us cost savings down the road?
So I'm going to come with you with that answer from a combination of our child welfare and our behavioral health work. So when we do family preservation work and we find out that a reason that a child is in danger of being taken from the home or into state custody is substance abuse or substance misuse, we make an immediate referral, and if they are in need of treatment, we make sure that they get to treatment and we hold them accountable to remain in treatment. We know that if we prevent that child from coming into custody, and we have done so with probably last fiscal year alone, well over 400 families. If we can prevent one, I said it's $90,000 per year for one kid in the foster family system. So if we have a mom of 3 kids and we prevent 3 kids from going into custody, you can do the math, and it doesn't take long before we've saved the state what we are asking for in the tax exemption by preventing further services being delivered.
Could you give an estimate at least how many children, I guess, a year, just so I can do some math?
I'm going to pull them out. I would say we have, generally speaking, at least 500 families in our family preservation, and a third of those usually are in need of substance use service. And I don't know for sure how many kids, right? It could be an average, if you average 2.3 kids, which I think is the state of Kansas, you can do your math. Yeah, you're welcome.
Certainly. Next question would come from Representative Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Alvarado, for the work you do. As a former school administrator, we use the services of DECA. Yeah, thank you.
Glad to hear that. I hope they were good.
Yeah. Question, though, does your organization qualify for community mental health funding as a community mental health service?
We are not a community mental health center.
Okay. Thank you.
Next, let's go to Representative Helgerson.
Thank you very much. You said your budget's, was it 20 million?
Mm-hmm.
How much of that is derived from state or federal contracts?
I'm going to make another deferment to Carrie Jackson. She knows all the numbers.
There is a significant portion that's grant funded or contract funded. I would say close to 90% of what we do is going to be transferred from either the federal or state government in one way or the other, whether it's a grant or a contract. The other sources of income are going to be we do some private pay, we do some third-party insurance billings within some of our services, so we do get those funds. We do get contributions. We're not-for-profit. We also have some like rental income. We have some other sources, some miscellaneous sources, but certainly it is the vast majority of our funding.
Would you say that the contracts that the state has have you underbid them, and that's why you need the additional funds?
No, so the conversation in my testimony that had to do with rates is our behavioral health work. So that's Medicaid rates, that's block grant rates. We did receive a block grant hike, a rate hike last year. That's the first one in well over 20 years that we had received. So you can imagine in 20 years how much service delivery escalates the cost and the rate. So the rate that we're talking about, it's those rates that have not kept pace. So it's not our contractual work, which we also do.
I'm confused. The contracts were signed in the last several years. So are the contracts and the rates not sufficient in order to make
the rate high, the rates that are paid, the reimbursement rates have not kept pace with the cost
okay and
to deliver the service.
And how much of a percentage is that?
Well, it depends on if you're talking about our Medicaid rate or you're talking about block grant rate. So our Medicaid rate right now is, I would say, I'm going to have to defer. I would like to answer that question. Could I return you with specifics so I'm not referring to things in my mind versus things on the paper? Carrie, I'm going to ask that you get that question down. Could we send you that answer, and we will be glad to give you our rates and our reimbursement and our costs.
I guess I'm sure there's going to be other things that we'll talk about. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Representative Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your presentation. So this is, a pretty tough subject for everybody to have to deal with. What's the trend line? Are we making a difference?
So those who, I will tell you our work, those who we treat in our substance abuse treatment programs, we have at least as well, if not higher rate of success than what you see in the national averages. With substance abuse, there's always the potential for a relapse or needing more than one episode of treatment. But I would tell you that DECA's outcomes have consistently met or exceeded the state requirement for our contract and have been in line with national or exceeded national rates.
More. So, unfortunately, I guess I read too much news, but and personal experience in my own community, we're not winning this deal.
It is a tough battle to win. Are you talking about substance use?
We buried 4 kids over the summer, and it was gut wrenching. Some of those kids came from very successful friends of mine that somewhere they fell off the beaten path. So I guess my question is, we're spending all this money. We've been spending all this money, and I mean it's buckets and buckets and buckets of money. Are we moving the needle? Are we doing the right thing? Do we need to change their zip code? Do they need to live in Waukene instead of Lawrence? I mean,
No, they don't need to live. In my opinion, they should not need to change their zip code. I think we need to be consistent across the state in the services that we provide. I think in some instances, absolutely, we are making huge progress. I will tell you that COVID has taken a toll on people staying at home and having access, and sometimes young people staying at home alone longer or not able to do the kinds of things that we know young people need to do to stay healthy, which is healthy interaction and healthy activities. And so substances become part of their life. And it is heartbreaking, and we do heartbreaking work. And there are times where we feel very successful, and there are times when we feel as if we didn't do enough. And I think that's the challenge that we deal with every day.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Committee, other questions? Representative Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So how many counties are you active in? All 105 or?
Well, and my answer will be, it depends on which one you're talking about. So let me see if I can help you. Our traffic safety work and our prevention work are statewide, 105 counties. Our behavioral health work, we have residential treatment centers. We have one for men and one for women in Wichita, and we have one for women in Lawrence, and then we have outpatient clinics in Lawrence and Wichita, Pratt, and Pittsburgh. And then our family preservation work we do in the 5 counties surrounding the Kansas City metro area and the 10 counties surrounding the Wichita area. So to your answer, it depends on which program we're doing, which part of the state we work in.
So would it be fair to say that you're more active in the urban counties?
With our traffic safety work, we're very active in the rural counties, talking about traffic safety and seatbelt usage.
But in your overall programming?
Our residential centers are absolutely in Lawrence and Wichita. Pittsburgh and Pratt, our outpatient clinics, absolutely are more rural-oriented.
Thank you.
We have another question from Representative Schmidt.
Yes, ma'am. And I know you probably don't have this number off the top of your head, but maybe you can give us an estimate. What percentage of your clients have insurance?
A very small number. We do some private insurance work, but I would say less than 5% have private insurance. And I'm going to check my number. Am I close? Okay.
Committee, other questions? Are there members online on WebEx with their hands up? No. No questions? In that case, I have one.
Sure.
Just kind of out of curiosity on the revisor synopsis, he said one of the exemptions was for sales that you made to others. Can you give me an example of that?
We don't make sales to others.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Very good.
I was checking to make sure I'm not missing something.
Okay. You don't manufacture anything, in other words. Okay. All right. Then I just misread it.
No, sir.
Then.
Yeah.
Okay. If there are no other questions, thank you very much. Thank you for appearing.
Thank you.
All right. Committee, this is the only conferee we have listed today. Are there others who are in attendance who wish to appear as a proponent? Okay, seeing none, we'll close that portion. Are there any who wish to appear as a neutral? Are there any who wish to appear as an opponent? Seeing none, then we will close the hearing on House Bill 2494. Thank you all for your attendance and your participation. Is there anything else, committee, for the good of the order? If not, we'll stand it. Representative Helgerson.
Mr. Chairman, I'll mention this even though we don't have everyone here. This begs the question about our sales tax. There are really inequities in the sales tax system on who gets the sales tax exemption. And we talked about it several years ago that it needs to be looked at. It's hard for me to start giving more exemptions when we're so out of whack of, because a different group that may be providing the same services in a different locale may have gotten a legislator previously to do something. It's time that we need to spend some research on deciding how we give these out and don't give them out.
It's a good point, and it's a point well taken. It's just that if you look at every exemption we have on the books, there's going to be somebody willing to fight for it. So are you volunteering to run that subcommittee?
I'd be happy to. In fact, I offered before, and it's a challenging thing, but I think we need to start addressing it.
Well,
It'll be the first
unfortunately, I
time
don't
and
have that
only
authority
time.
since I'm not the chairman, but
And
I'll tell
I
the
understand,
chairman.
but it would be the only time a Democrat gets to be a chair or anything right here.
Well, if there's nothing else good for the body, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you.